We're going to start out with our first guest, Ethan Crownberry. He's an author. He's written a number of books for children. And he's an illustrator. I was just looking through his book. Oh, great illustration.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me here.
How'd you get started?
How did I get started? It's a weird story. My wife and I were in a bookstore one day. This was probably about 8 years ago. She had to pick up a Dr. Seuss book for a college paper that she was writing. And I remember driving home. I was looking through the book. I wasn't driving and reading at the same time.
I was going to say, and you had your
she
phone
was driving,
in the other hand,
right, and had the phone. I was texting. No, she was driving, and I was reading, and I was thumbing through it. And I'd always played around with lyrics. I'm a musician, a drummer, and I used to play in a band a long time ago in my younger days. I always played around with lyrics a little bit and poetry, and I remember thumbing through this
and of course, Dr. Seuss
by Dr.
does
Seuss.
this.
And I remember thinking to myself, I could write stuff like this if I put my mind to it. And the next day I came up with this idea for a story about a fly that couldn't fly, and then my wife said to me, "That's flies aren't cute. You should write it about a bee." And that's actually this book.
Oh,
this is the first book that I wrote.
Hold it up. Bobby Bumble's afraid to fly.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
So that was my first attempt at writing a children's book, and I wrote the text, and
you can see the illustrations. He's really good at illustrating.
It's very hard to find an illustrator for your books, and I woke up literally one morning at 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, if nobody else is going to illustrate this, I'm going to do it myself. So I sat down at a computer. I'm also a computer programmer and have taught classes on computer graphics programs.
What a talented guy.
So I figured, all right, I'll just do it myself. So, and then I started writing more books, and you can kind of see where...
Johnny Jetpack.
Johnny Jetpack, my second
and
book.
what's Johnny Jetpack about?
Well, this toddler gets
I love your photograph, illustration.
Gets a jetpack from his grandfather, and it came with a helmet and a utility belt, and then he always had this dream of flying through space, and just about, as he's about to take off into space, all of a sudden the helmet starts picking up signals from people down on the ground who need help in some situation or another.
Oh, what a nice story.
So, and the jetpack only has so much fuel, and the fuel is very hard to come by. So he has choices to make. Do I help people, or do I, achieve my own goals?
Oh, nice message.
Yeah, all my books have sort of a journey of the mind type feel. I was influenced a lot by The Twilight Zone.
Oh, I love The Twilight Zone.
And Rod Serling. So these are all
the first round of Twilight Zone.
I have the complete
black and white
edition
ones, yeah.
at home on DVD, but I've seen every episode.
I've seen them 10 times each.
But you can kind of see where my storytelling sort of took a... This is kind of bright and cheery, and then all of a sudden everything kind of became dark and dramatic. And
now you went to the Willies.
And yes, I have another story coming out that I haven't illustrated yet, but they can check it out on my website. I've got the pre-illustrated text version. It's called Grandpa's Pocket, and it's actually about these twin brother and sister who think that their grandfather's pocket, for some reason, has a magical power to grant them anything that they want, and then they basically go to war with each other over this pocket, trying to obtain it. So for the kids, it's kind of a sibling rivalry type story, but for the adults, it has undertones of the struggle for supreme power, I guess you'd say.
And this one, I don't think we talked about.
This is my most popular book. This was the second book that I wrote, and this is really the turning point where my writing started to take this sort of dramatic approach. It's about a fish who is sort of a curmudgeon, I guess you'd say. He's pretty miserable and unhappy with the world, and that's how the story starts out. This
isn't a fish that can't swim, right?
No, he doesn't do much swimming in the book. He just kind of sits in a tank and floats around and complains about things. He's sort of, brought home in a plastic bag, as most fish are, dropped into this tank sort of, uncomfortably, and left in a gray, dark room by himself. And then he complains and complains and complains, and then a star comes down from the night sky and basically starts granting him any wish that he wants. But things don't work out for him so well. It starts out to kind of be a grass is always greener on the other side type of story. And the star gets annoyed with the fish and says, "That's it, you got one wish left. Make it a good one, think about it overnight." And then he wakes up the next morning and realizes this little girl staring at him. And he was a gift for that little girl. The little girl's in a wheelchair, and now he has an important decision to make with this last wish, and it has a surprise ending. We're not
going to talk about the ending.
I won't ruin any of the endings. All of my books have some sort of weird little slight twist at the end.
Yeah.
They
You
are
have
written
two
in
kids.
verse.
You have 2 kids. Do you read these? Do they approve them?
Well, let me put it to you this way. Both my children have autism. My son is too young because he's only 3 years old.
Okay.
My daughter is 6, approaching 7, and she's a little weirded out by the fact that her father is an author. So no, I have not read them to her. She won't let me do it.
Oh my goodness!
It's not that she wouldn't enjoy the stories. Actually, I have pictures on the back of the books
Yeah.
of me and my daughter.
I
'cause
know.
I've written
I love
this-
your website. You have your kids on there.
I
It's
do.
So
I have my
nice.
kids. I'm sure she would enjoy them if she let me read them to her, but every time I pull one out, you want to read one of Daddy's books? She's like, no, yeah, let's read something else. I think she just
That's
freaks
too
her out a
weird.
little
I
bit
want
for some
Dr.
reason.
Seuss.
So
Let
yeah,
Mom
exactly.
read me Dr.
So we
Seuss.
read Fox and Socks and other things, but
Bob R. the elephant.
right. Yep. Yeah. So
I think
you
it's
can.
important to try different books on your kids. You know,
It
there's
is.
so many.
We have a very extensive library at home, and it's sort of spreading from my daughter's room into my son's room little by little because he goes in there and he steals books and he brings them over.
One of the things I love are books. I mean, I was one of these moms that had books in every room. I still do. But for kids, I mean, I just wanted them to be able to pick up a book somewhere in the house, even if it's a bathroom, you know, read. You know?
And nowadays it's actually even easier because most people have these devices now,
Yeah.
the Nook and the Kindle, and they're so easy to use, especially for kids with autism. My daughter is a pro on the Nook. She plays all sorts of video games that I can't even play.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
figure it out. And I'm a computer programmer. I don't know what she's doing half the time. She'll slide in front of me and say, I can't finish this level. Do it for me. I'm like, I don't know how to do this.
I don't know what to tell them. What are the rules?
But they're so easy to use. I caught my son using the Nook one day. He was playing Angry Birds, and he's only 2 years old, and he's trying to figure out how to, get the bird to fly off the slingshot. And of course, it was going in the wrong direction. But they're so easy to use. In fact, iPads actually they recommend for kids with autism
I
because
know,
there's so many different programs,
that's
and,
really
and it's
great,
so easy
though.
for them to interact with these devices.
We were out one day and we saw a kid, let me borrow a book, and the kid had been using the Kindle or whatever, the iPad, I don't know what they're all called, but because there's so many different
Kindle,
ones.
iPad.
And
Nook.
anyways, he's doing that. Then his mother hands him a book because she wanted the device to do something else with or whatever. And so he's standing there going like this
Yep.
with a book, and I'm looking and I'm laughing.
It's almost
I said, oh my
instinctual, and
goodness,
they
they
know-
want to move.
They know how to do
But
it.
it
yeah.
made me laugh when I saw how ingrained it was that
Yep.
they had the talent to be able to, keep thinking, well, this is how I have to turn pages or do this or that.
Yeah, it's almost like they were born with it.
They're
or
born
something.
with it. I mean, we weren't born with anything like that. But it's, I think that if you're interested in getting some nice books for your kids, this might be a place to start and enjoy them and read to your kids.
Read to your kids. We read to our kids before they go to bed at night.
Yeah.
Son and daughter. We usually read about 15 minutes at least, 20 minutes. They say 20 minutes. Read to your kids 20 minutes a day.
And don't do like I did, because sometimes I was so tired. I'd read like 2 pages, and then I'd skip 4 pages. And,
If you are tired,
And
the
my
Nook
kids-
will read it to them.
and my kids would go, you left out the part about, and I go, so I had to back up. So then I found out that you can't skip anything with kids. You got to read the
My
whole-
daughter's like that. If you skip a page, she knows immediately because she has the book memorized.
Yeah, I
And-
know. They got it memorized. They know exactly what's in that story. I said, don't do that, Mom and Dad. Just read the book. bite your tongue and read it. But get some new books in your library and enjoy them with your kids. I love books that have a message without the kids knowing there's a message.
Right, it's got to be subtle.
Very subtle.
Sort of subtle. You don't want to be
Yeah.
didactic or
You don't want to hit them over the head
hit
with
them over
it.
the right with a ton of
Let
books.
their parents do that.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
Ethan Crownberry. He's an author and illustrator. And where are your books available?
My books are available everywhere. You can actually get them on Nook, Kindle, and through the iStore on your iPod. I actually downloaded one onto my wife's
Okay.
iPod the other day to check it out. For any of the your iDevices through the iStore, they're 99 cents on any of the devices. You can get them through Amazon. Just go to my website, ethancrownberry.com.
You buy hard copies. You
can
get
buy
those.
these hard copies for $7.95. They are paperback and black and white.
And they're
You can
available
get them through
in-
Barnes & Noble. You can go on Barnes & Noble's website. You can go into any book retailer and ask
Okay, good.
for the books. I don't know that you'd find them on the shelves. It's very hard to get
Okay,
into brick and
good.
mortar stores. But
It's hard,
also
but the Open Door Bookstore has been pretty good about getting a lot of these books on the shelves in Schenectady, downtown Schenectady. So
I think I was going to
check them
contact
out.
them at one
Check
point in
them out.
time, but I
And
haven't
they'll
yet.
order for you anyway.
Right, they will order by ISBN or by
Have some
title.
fun. Get some new books on your kids' shelves. And Ethan Crownberry has written some really great ones. So glad you're here today.
Thank you very
It's been a
much
pleasure
for having me.
to have you on. And good luck with your kids and getting them to read those books to them.
Right, someday it might happen. I don't know. We'll see.
Who knows? We're going to take just a quick break.